Hey, good evening, guys. I'm Bill McMillan with NDWX.com, and over the weekend we had a chance to post our winter outlook for the upcoming 2015-2016 winter here across central Indiana. Really just wanted to take a couple of moments this evening to go into a little bit more detail kind of around the method behind our madness with that winter outlook. There's been a lot of talk around El Nino. I'm sure you've heard about it and just how strong this El Nino is, and there's certainly no denying that. There's been a lot of talk, too, and comparisons made from 1997-98 and 2015-2016 in terms of the El Ninos. And there's no getting around, again, the fact that we're dealing with a very strong El Nino. But I would say that when you look at it from a broader perspective and you take into account the sea surface temperature configuration across the rest of the Pacific and even into the Atlantic, we're talking about a vastly different scenario that probably will have a rather large impact on what we experience here in terms of the sensible weather across central Indiana this upcoming winter season. So really quick, just wanted to show you a couple of different things. By the way, if you haven't had an opportunity to view our winter outlook, you can go to NDWX.com, search for the winter outlook. We're going to also post this with its own tab there at the top here over the next couple of days as well, so it'll be very easy to find. And as opposed to having you read all of the boring lingo and all the pixels that we posted over the weekend, we'll just get right to the point. We think we've got a colder than normal winter upcoming, on average 1 degree below normal when you total up December, January, and February. And then we think we're probably dealing with somewhere in the neck of the woods around 20 inches of snow for the upcoming winter season. That's first flake to last flake. So not as clean in terms of the temperature forecast. December, January, and February we're taking into account the meteorological winter to grade that. But then when it goes to the snowfall forecast again, that's based off first flake to last flake. That said, even with that 20 inches of snow, though it is a bit below normal, I think it's still really a bold forecast compared to what a lot of what you're hearing out there around just how we've got an El Nino here, it's just going to be dry, a boring winter, and a very easy winter. I don't think that's going to be the case whatsoever. I think we've got an incredibly challenging winter ahead, one that's going to be very difficult to figure out with any certainty around the particular drivers that are going to try to take control from time to time, probably dealing with at times very large swings from relatively boring weather and very active stormy weather. And certainly when you hear a lot of the media, not all, but a lot of the media discussing El Nino, it's very easy to just broad brush it and say it's going to be dry and warm here across the Midwest and the Ohio Valley, and that's not the case. Again, there's so many other factors to consider, and those factors are certainly prevalent for the upcoming winter. So really quick, we just wanted to take a look here. This is the current sea surface temperature configuration here, taken October 19th, 2015. We obviously see the El Nino here going on. Also, we've made a little post here last night. It's going to be interesting to see, and we're actually already starting to see the warmest anomalies begin to shift more into the central Pacific, and that's key to, especially if you're wanting a cold winter across the Midwest and the East. We're seeing that take place here, and some of the forecast models continue that as we go further into the winter. But also note all of the warm anomalies here across the eastern and northern Pacific, and also the very warm Atlantic with some colder anomalies here across the northern Atlantic. This, by the way, is, and you can argue that if you just look at it from a sea surface temperature perspective, that this would suggest that we may be looking at a negative NAO developing as we go into the winter, based off of the overall SST profile here. But then when we go and compare this to 1997-98, it is so far different, you can't really even draw any sort of comparisons. And obviously, as a result, you can't really base the sensible weather, obviously, of what we saw in 97, 98, which, by the way, was a warm, very dry winter across our area, to what we've got going on now. I mean, yes, we've got that strong El Nino, but notice how far, tucked in here the warmest anomalies are. A very strong indication that we're looking at a warm pattern, especially when you factor in the state of the central and northern Pacific with all the cold anomalies here. Again, the exact opposite of what we've got going on right now. And then obviously the Atlantic. Again, this argues for a positive NAO, the cold under the warm here. So, when you just look at it from a broad scale perspective, it's very easy to pick apart any sort of argument around, yes, based off on a strong El Nino, it's, typically going to be, if you want to use the word typical, we've gone into further detail with our winter outlook around how you really can't broad brush any of the El Ninos because of the wide, varying swings of things here in terms of the sensible weather. But if you're just talking about a strong El Nino and not factoring in the state of the central and northern Pacific and the Atlantic to some extent, you're just not, you're doing yourself a disservice. So we wanted to kind of discuss our reasoning in terms of our winter outlook based off, again, the sea surface temperature configuration and comparing it to that year that a lot of people are hearing and a lot of people are talking about, 97, 98. So there we go. Getting back to this year's winter outlook, and we'll scroll to the bottom. Again, a lot of in-depth detail went into kind of our thinking around what we've got going on. Again, as we started out, 1 degree below normal, so a colder than normal winter is what we expect. In the face of what a lot of media, again, not all, but a lot, would tell you, we've got an El Nino, it's going to be warm. We disagree strongly with that. There's a lot of, I guess the biggest questions have to do with the snowfall. And quite honestly, forecasting 20 inches of snow with a strong El Nino is kind of a bold statement. But if you factor in the state of the Pacific, the Central and North Pacific, and as well as the Atlantic, I think you can kind of see where we're heading with this. I would say if we had to pick whether or not we're going to be below, whether we had a better chance of being below or above the 20-inch mark in terms of seasonal snowfall, I would lean more towards above. That said, we're going out here with a forecast of 20 inches of snow at IND from first flake to last flake. Again, I think what is a rather bold statement considering that we are in a strong El Nino. You do have to consider that as well and take that into account, even though we've got other, factors that would suggest we've got a cold, snowier than normal winter lining up. So guys, hopefully this did a little bit to, help clear up a little bit of our thinking in regards to what we think lies ahead with the upcoming winter here across central Indiana. We'll be here all winter on IndyWX.com, kind of getting involved with longer range outlooks with the winter storms that are sure to line up as we move deeper and deeper into the weeks and months ahead. By the way, as of this video update, keep an eye on the end of October and early November. A storm system of significance appears to be out there, and probably also a pretty good shot of some cold air. So we'll definitely keep you up to date on that. IndyWX.com. Have a great night, guys. Thank you as always for all your support and tuning in. Talk to you soon.